up, everybody? Welcome to the Alliance presentation, alliance-wrestling.com presentation of the pre-party. I'm out of focus. Focus, Jay, focus. Everyone's expecting you to focus. What is up, everyone? This is a terrific Tuesday, or is it? And we are talking NWA with you, the fans of the National Wrestling Alliance. I do want to give a special shout out to my boy Willie Mack tonight in Irvine. Willie Mack is challenging for the United Wrestling Network World Championship. Excuse me. Willie Mack, Willie Mack, the same guy that is a former X Division champion. Willie Mack, the same guy that has been a NWA National Champion, the Hollywood Heritage Champion, the United Wrestling Network Television Champion. He's held the House of Hardcore Television Champion. He's been the Lucha Libre Champion in Mexico with Crash. He's defended titles in Japan and all across the world. Willie Mack challenges Chris Dirty Daddy Dickinson for the United Wrestling Network World Championship. I hope you guys are tuning in to either YouTube or locally here in Southern California on KDOC, or even internationally, or internationally out of the country, out of the states, wherever on YouTube. You can check it out for United Wrestling Network. Make sure you check that out. I know this is a NWA themed podcast, but I very much wanted to give a shout out to Willie Mack. I really feel like he is primed to do some pretty big things now that he's a free agent, unrestricted, not held down by anyone or anything. He is free to move about the country, if you will. And I'm very excited to see what's next for him. I see a bunch of my pals are already in the chat, so let me say hello to you. I see Sweet Vanilla, Ron Gibson, the Great Hisa, NWA Gold, Wrestling with the MMA. You're all here. Willie's here. Heaves is here. Ron is here. And Bobby Petito's here. Yeah, this is a really fun-looking show that's coming up this week. Michael Manning's in the house. Tonight's episode of Power looks very, very good. And I know that sounds weird for your pal Jay to say, considering the fact that they're bringing back Tag Team War. Hence why we played the video of our pal Jax Dane there. But it looks like a fun show, and from top to bottom, I'm kind of excited for this program. I think it's going to be good. I think if you are a fan of the National Wrestling Alliance, this episode is going to be a lot of fun tonight. And as we march our way to Power Trip 2, apparently that's going to be the next event, the next show. This will be the last episode that's taped in the last episode that was taped in Nashville, as we move forward to Always Ready, I guess, is where we're heading. Also, real quick, wanted to point out to you guys that we are at 980 subscribers. That means that there's 980 party animals like yourself who've decided to make this podcast, this live stream every Tuesday and Thursday, part of your regular NWA viewing habits. And I'm eternally grateful for you for that. I'm eternally grateful to you, our viewing audience, and I do appreciate that. If you could be so kind, keep giving us those thumbs up, keep hitting that share button, and encourage your other friends to subscribe, because we will be giving away replica championship belts, either a domed globe title that you it's not behind me this time. The Dome Globe title, or the Crown title that has become now the blueprint for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Either one of those titles, our good pal Tim over at NWA Gold is going to be handing those out to one lucky winner once we hit that 1,000. And we're 20 people away. Blown away by the support, guys. I see you retweeting. I see you sharing. I see all that. I appreciate it. You guys are the best. And thank you for that. It's very humbling, by the way, that some of you guys are out here sharing this stuff completely unsolicited, and I just want to tell you thank you. It really does mean the world to me. Wrestling with MMA, no, that was an old clip. That was from Crockett Cup 2019. No, the wild card is not still in the NWA. Royce Isaac is still very much no longer a part of the brand. Anthony Mayweather and Jax Dane are not on the best of terms. And, it was just a clip that I showed. I picked that one in particular because I found it recently, but also because it shows that Jax Dane can literally handle a tag team by himself. So putting him in this team war competition, I think, is going to be very, very interesting. Willie Bowen says Jabba the Hutt is the worst NWA TV champion. It'll be a happy day when he loses the belt. Might be with Mims at the pay-per-view, right? Always ready. Could be it. Dave Scooby says, like, sub, and share. We're 20 away from 1,000. Thank you for saying that, Mr. Scooby. I do appreciate that. Bobby Batuta says, Gags, the Gimp 60-second promo on NWA USA last Saturday was interesting. Bobby, I'm going to call BS and say, no, it probably was not. I haven't seen it yet. I tend to watch the USA episodes on the Thursday before the pre-party. Ron, brother, nobody wants to see that. I have a beard because it makes my face as handsome as it possibly can get. So we're not shaving the beard or mustache. You'd have a better shot at me shaving these long locks of gorgeous hair than my beard or mustache. All right, so let's get to the show this week. Of course, there are things to talk about, and we'll get to some of it. Of course, I don't, they announce the lineups for these shows, but they never really say what order the shows are going to be in, and there's never any real continuity. So your guess is as good as mine. But on tonight's episode of POWERRR, we're going to have Team War, Ill Begotten, Jax Dane, and The End versus Gold Rush. I really feel like this is a big night for the Ill Begotten, but this could go any way, right? This could go every way. These are some pretty interesting tag teams. We haven't seen Odinson or Parrow since they challenged for the tag titles. That was a couple weeks ago. Of course, Jax Dane is the Dane event. You see him featured regularly on NWA USA. In fact, he's teamed with Marshe Rockett more recently than he's teamed with The End. In fact, if we go back to the last tag team war, it was announced that Jax was going to be teaming with The End, only to be replaced by Rodney Mack. It was such a weird turn of events because you kind of expected, Dane and Odinson and Dane and Parrow. I mean, you had these three dudes who are just built like mountains and very like-minded guys when it comes to, stacking plates and throwing people. And it just didn't pan out that way. We got Rodney Mack instead. And that, of course, came off of Rodney Mack popping Jax Dane right in the mouth. So real weird turn of events. I'm not really sure why we didn't get that match, that team, the last team war, but we're getting it this time. And of course, the Ill Begotten has only gotten better with with having our good pal, Mr. Jeremiah Plunkett as the coach, the player coach. Comes off the bench and leads that team. They eliminated Captain Yuma from the group. We haven't seen Captain Yuma since. With Danny Deals in their back pocket, Rushhh, Freeman, Alex Taylor, and Jeremiah Plunkett have really been making some inroads and had some pretty good matches on NWA USA. I'm not sure what we're going to see out of these guys. And of course, pump the brakes, Jay. You're going too fast. Of course, with Jeremiah Plunkett, with those guys, anything could happen. And then, of course, they're calling them the Gold Rush. I would have called this Idolmania Sports Management. Any way you look at it, you've got Jordan Clearwater, you've got Jeez, and you've got Rockett, Marshe Rockett. And, they too have been having some pretty good matches as of late on NWA USA. And I really feel like you're going to see some good things come for those guys. In particular, Jordan Clearwater, I think, is highly underutilized and highly underrated. I'm going to read some more of your comments here as we get going with the show. Lamb, my pal Lamb, we haven't seen you on in a while, Lamb. Thanks for checking us out today. Lamb says, an interesting post a few hours ago by J. Cal on Instagram. Should Willie Mack return to the NWA and make the national title a big deal again? The Mack will challenge for the title tomorrow from Irvine Improv. Lamb, that's tonight. That match is happening tonight. And I think that I think that Willie Mack, being let go of his contract from Impact is going to be one of those blessings in disguise. I don't know how Impact can't find a way to use Willie Mack to his fullest potential. Remember, before Impact signed him, he was the national champion, and there was some controversy due to his status with AAA and because of Lucha Underground and everything else. And it felt like a smear job that got Willie Mack out of the NWA. And at the time, I mean, Nick Aldis even said, that was a big deal at the time. I think Nick Aldis said it was the biggest scam job in the business at the time, because he had just, he had lost the national title to Colt Cabana. They were getting ready to start doing those Power TV tapings in the fall. Of course, none of this was, known information at the time. All this gets released later, but I don't know. I don't know if the NWA has a place for Willie Mack, considering the history that happened. I don't know if they hold any ill will for Willie Mack for signing that contract with Impact. But I think he'd be welcomed on any roster that I could think of. I mean, if you're Willie Mack, I'm sure Ring of Honor, AEW at least has a ring to it that might make sense. But, as United Wrestling Network continues to grow, there's the NWA, there's Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, there's Crash out in Mexico, Lucha Libre. It's literally, when we say Mexico, Willie Mack lives in Las Vegas. It's not a very far flight from Las Vegas to Tijuana, Mexico, where the Crash has most of their shows. If not the Crash, I mean, AAA is always an option as well. They've in the past have used Willie Mack, and he could be an addition to that roster as well. But I mean, he could go anywhere. And I know this is an NWA podcast, but I think with Willie Mack, especially tonight, he could be the next United Wrestling Network world champion. There's a very good chance of that. And then who knows what happens. Michael Manning says everyone wants the Dane event. Of course they do, because he is a former two-time national champion, a former North American champion. He's a former tag team champion, and he's a former world's heavyweight champion. No one in the NWA is even close to reaching those accomplishments. And just imagine this, right? Imagine if Jax Dane were to win the TV title at some point before he finally calls it a career. He will have held every single notable championship in the NWA that, of course, he can qualify for, because he's not going to wrestle for the women's championships, and he's not going to, cut down to a junior heavyweight. I mean, that dude is, I think maybe one of his legs might be pushing it for a junior heavyweight. Bobby Patillo says he'd like to see John Morrison wrestle at the NWA since Taya Valkyrie is wrestling at Always Ready. I mean, there's a good chance that could happen, right? We were kind of shocked when Matt Cardona showed up, but would it be shocking if Johnny Alliance, Johnny Nation came to the NWA? I mean, I would not be shocked or surprised. I would like to actually see it, especially if he's an outsider coming in to challenge maybe somebody like, Tyrus for the TV title, or even Jax Dane for the national championship. I don't want these hot shot title matches for the world's heavyweight champion, but I do think there is room for bringing in names outside of the NWA and using that celebrity to help get the NWA over. Ron Gibson says, I wish the Ill Begotten were named the Moon for the Misbegotten, like the old Eugene O'Neill play. Ron, my friend, I don't think I get that. I'm sure it's hilarious to you. I don't get it, man. I'm sorry. Let's see. Heeb says, happy to finally see Odinson again. I think he was last on during the season premiere. We got to see Odinson and Parrow on the first episode when they had the La Rebellion defended the tag titles against the End. I think that was what kicked off the latest season of POWERRR. Michael Manning says, the Golden Boy is great, Jay. No one would be more pleased with winning a title. I really like Jordan Clearwater. I feel like he's terribly underutilized. That TV title has been held ransom by Tyrus for so long. And I think like like that division, that TV championship should really be a title that isn't a long-term championship. It should bounce around. It should be recognizing some of the best guys on the roster, and that belt can help transition people from mid-card to main event. It can certainly get guys like Jordan Clearwater a lot more recognition. And if he can hold that title for 14 weeks and get a shot at the world's title, he doesn't have to win it, but just being the first person to go all 7 successful title defenses to get a shot at the world title, I think would be very monumental. And whoever ends up being the guy that do that would mean a lot for them as a wrestler and as a champion. Willie Bowen says NWA Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is the absolute best. Willie, I know you're a big fan. Michael Manning says the ill forgotten. Yeah, it's kind of, it feels that way sometimes. But, I think with the addition of, he's been there for a while, but I think there are plans for that group, especially with Jeremiah Plunkett. I mean, I know he is a seasoned veteran, but man, I love that guy so much. He's a good dude. If you guys didn't hear, he was on the podcast recently, the Sessions with Jay Cal. It's available on Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. Or you can watch the video right here on this channel, either YouTube or Twitch. It's still available. Bobby Petito says, I'm looking forward to watching AJ Canzana wrestle tonight on POWERRR. Yeah, I mean, it'll be the first time he's been around in a while. We'll talk more about that momentarily. And then Lamb says, maybe bring back the British Commonwealth title for Doug Williams and let him defend it all over the UK. Now you're talking. But see, here's where I would go, Lamb. I would put the belt on Nick Aldis first. Yeah, that one, that one right there. That belt right there. That one back there. The British Commonwealth Championship. The belt that was that design was actually made specifically for Drew Onyx. It was his design. That title linked NWA Quebec and NWA UK Hammerlock. The title has been held by guys like, I just mentioned Drew Onyx, but also Fergal Devitt. You might know him better as Finn Balor, Carl the Machine Gun Anderson, Paul Traceley, Alex Kozlov, just to name a few. At one point, that was one of the main titles for the then NWA Pro Wrestling out here in Southern California. We call them Championship Wrestling from Hollywood now. That's why that belt has some extra special meaning for your boy J-Cal, because I used to go to the Santa Monica Dojo and watch Carl the Machine Gun Anderson and Mikey Nichols wrestle for that belt. So Dave Scooby says, keep rotating a few names in every few sets of tapings. I mean, I kind of feel like they're doing that now, right? I mean, it's been a while since we've seen Scott Steiner in the NWA, but he came in for just a few episodes and then left. We had the Villains Enterprise in for just a few episodes and left. And I think you're going to see more and more of that as the show kind of progresses. I mean, I know with like Chris Adonis, he was such a part of Strictly Business, but I wouldn't be surprised for him to go away and come back at some point. Same thing with our pal Harry Smith Jr. Wouldn't shock me if he did a few more shows and then was gone for a while and came back down the road. I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, I think it kind of helps keep the product fresh. If Tyrus were to go away, hopefully he'd stay away. But guys like Idolmania Sports Management, if they left, I think people would miss them. Lamb says, more titles, damn it. And NWA Gold says, no more belts. Let's see. Michael Manning says, the ill-forgotten have a chance to never be forgotten. That's true. Bobby Petito says he wants to see Aldis versus Taven. Now you're talking, man. I think that would be great. Bobby Petito says, I like my sponsor Natalia Markova match against KiLynn King and Genocide at Mission Pro last Saturday. Look, Natalia Markova, and I will get to this in a minute, has been very dominant in the National Wrestling Alliance. I know that she's getting set to go make her debut for AAA in Mexico. And, we've seen her in Mission Pro. We've seen her really kind of get a groundswell of support in independent pro wrestling. And I fear, and this is a real legitimate fear, I feel like Natalia Markova, much like Ricky Starks, much like Zicky Dice, much like Homicide, much like Colt Cabana, might be preparing to move on from the NWA, much like Lady Frost. I just feel like she is doing such a damn good job of wrestling that, her stock is going up. I know that, not that she's connected directly to the NWA, but Masa Slamovich, who was at the Empower pay-per-view, is going to be making her Pro Wrestling Guerrilla debut at their next show. And it's a wild time right now for women's wrestling. You're seeing the cream certainly rise to the top. Okay, more matches. Now, let's talk about AJ Canzana here for a minute. We know that he is a third-generation professional wrestler, that his family still promotes wrestling in the state of Tennessee. AJ Canzana has had officially 2 matches in the NWA exclusively against Mims. Excuse me. AJ Canzana has wrestled, made his first appearance in the NWA at the second night of Crockett Cup and the pre-show, the dark matches, if you will, the pre-show that's available on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, you can still watch those matches where he gets beaten by Mims, and then he comes back on an episode of NWA USA and loses, or excuse me, doesn't lose to Mims, but takes the match to I believe it was like a double count out or maybe a time limit draw. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember off the top of my head. So, he is also scheduled to be a part of the Always Ready pay-per-view. He'll be there the following night as well. I'm not sure if he's set to be part of the rest of the TV tapings, but we do know that he has been, somewhat of a new talent to the NWA, and I don't really know a whole lot about him, but he's taking on Colby Corino, the last bastion of professional wrestling. And we know that Colby Corino, besides being a Corino and having the legacy of that last name, has been doing a lot to kind of go after the World Junior Heavyweight Championship. He's beaten some of the right guys. He had the title match at Power Trip 2. We won't know the results of that, of course, until next week, or excuse me, until those matches air, which I'm assuming is next week. And I kind of think that maybe Colby didn't win the title, or else I think we would have heard more about it. Nevertheless, Colby Corino is a guy who I really feel like the NWA is putting a lot of stock into. So even though AJ Canzana might be a third-generation wrestler, a lot like Kerry Morton, Colby Corino is a Corino. And I think that'll be a fun matchup. We've seen Colby in the past mix it up with some more of that Southern-style wrestling. So we'll see what he has in store for AJ Canzana. Again, this matchup doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because Canzana doesn't appear to be a junior heavyweight, and Colby's kind of, focused in that junior heavyweight division. So we'll have to wait and see how that gets played out. Willie Bowen says, bring back ODB. I mean, she's great. She's fun. I wouldn't mind having her take another trip down the NWA lane. Ron Gibson says, I'd rather have Paul London than Aldous and Doug Williams. Now, that would be something. I'm a huge Paul London fan. I feel like we never got the best of what Paul London could have been. I'm kind of sad that we never got to see more of Paul London, outside of that after his WWE run. I think he's mostly acting now. I don't think you're going to see him see much more of him. And Bobby Petito gives me a correction. Canzana did have a match against Jake Dumas. I guess I forgot about that. My apologies. March 12th, he did wrestle against Canzana. And Scooby says the battle of second generation with Corino and Canzana. I thought Canzana was a third generation wrestler. I thought his grandfather also wrestled. I could be mistaken. I'm not perfect, far from it. You guys know that. And then Heeb says the NWA has partnered with AJ Canzana's father's promotion for the upcoming pay-per-view. AJ seems like a main player for the upcoming events. Aha, and now the plot thickens. Maybe that's why. And look, you know what? I'll be honest. I don't have a problem with that. I think if you can bring in a talent and push them, even because it's going to help you get your show produced, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's fine. I just don't know how it plays into him wrestling against a guy like Colby when Colby's not he's a junior heavyweight. That's what he identifies as. Let's keep him in the junior heavyweight division. Next up, we have a non-title match, and that's the Hex versus Maddie and Kenzie Page. Now, I was under the impression that initially this was a title match. I originally thought that this was going to be for the women's championship. Apparently I was incorrect because I didn't read this little descriptor that says non-title tag team match. Now, this is interesting thing about this match is Maddie Renikowski in Mission Pro Wrestling just won their version of the women's tag team championship. Kenzie Page, this will be her second time challenging. Excuse me. See, that's where I made my mistake. She's not challenging for the women's titles this week, but she will be at the pay-per-view. Hopefully she takes the knowledge that she's gained by being in the ring with Hex twice now, or will be twice after tonight's show, and take that to win her and Ella Envy challenge at the pay-per-view. Kenzie Page, there's been a lot of talk on our Discord that maybe her new nickname should be Mrs. Number One Contender, because it seems like she's always in the hunt for one of the women's championship titles. I think that it's pretty cool. I'm a big Kenzie Page fan. I do believe that steel sharpens steel. And I think that Kenzie Page has the potential to be the future of the National Wrestling Alliance. The girl's only 20 years old. What were you doing when you were 20? I was throwing rocks at my neighbor, Robbie Joyner. So that's an inside joke. Nobody's going to get that. But it's one of those deals where at 20 years of age, she's pretty advanced. And I mean, I can't wait to see what's next for her. I don't think she's winning the tag titles at the pay-per-view. However, the fact that she's getting a second opportunity, I think bodes well for her. All right, now I'm going to go to some more of your comments. Hey, Matthew Underwood's in the house. What's up, Matthew? He says Joe Galley was my source. I think it's more for local promotion stuff. I mean, all of it is good, right? All of it is good because it's hard for. I live in Southern California, and there are several wrestling promotions that are in Southern California. One promotion that's been around the longest is Empire Wrestling Federation. They're actually about 20 to 30 minutes away from where I live right now. They have been promoting wrestling since like late 90s, early 2000s. Some of the students that have come from their schools are Frankie Kazarian, Rocky Romero, Ricky Reyes, TJ Perkins, Molina, and a few others that you guys have been. Christopher Daniels spent a lot of time there. And as that promotion grows, one of the things they still do to this day is to get out there and flyer. The promoter who used to wrestle, used to referee. He worked enhancement matches for the WWE. Used to work for the old, the old NWA Hollywood back in the day for the LaBelles and the AWA when it used to tour out here. Jesse Hernandez has been a figure of Southern California wrestling for, like I said, probably close to 40 years now. And he still goes out there and flyers all of these events. And sometimes he does it by himself. I know they have a street team, but sometimes he's out there literally flyering by himself. And I guess what the point I'm trying to say is it's not like you have William Patrick Corgan out there flyering for events. It's not like Joe Galley is going to take the train from, wherever he's living now up to Nashville to start flyering for these events to Knoxville. It's smart to partner with a local promotion that's been paying off very well with their co-promotions with Tried and True Pro Wrestling. Having those power trip events at the Valor Hall has been very beneficial for the NWA. I'm not sure how it benefits Tried and True, but evidently if Mayweather continues to do these shows with the NWA, they must be getting something out of it. So I think that's all good. I think it's all good, but I just think, I agree. I think local promotion is important. And if you've got somebody who's been established for some time, I think everybody wins. Hisa says, I believe that AJ is Joe Canzana's son. Not sure who Joe's father is, either George or John, who promoted in Knoxville before the Fullers took over in the 70s. Yeah. I don't know either. I could be, like I said, I could be mistaken. I wasn't sure. Bobby says Colby Corino wrestles against Caprice Coleman. on NWA USA. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I haven't, like I said, I haven't saw it yet. Despite his height, I think Caprice Coleman could actually fit as a junior heavyweight wrestler if he chose to. I'm not 100% certain on that. Willie Bowen says, Jake, what's your opinion if Brian Cage signs with the NWA, future world's heavyweight champion? Brian Cage is an anomaly, right? Because he has all the tools except for maybe one, and that's his ability to cut a promo. He wrestles well. He's built amazingly. He's very much has all the tools in the ring except for maybe to generate that heat with the promos. But if you put him with the right person, with the right manager, I mean, the sky's the limit. And that was one of the things that wrestling was in the 80s that we don't see now. A lot of managers had those roles to kind of generate that heat. The Undertaker, for the first 10 years of his career, didn't do a whole lot of talking. It was all Paul Bearer. And if I'm any wrestling promotion at this point, if I have Brian Cage in it, I do believe he had re-signed with AEW. I do believe I read that. I would get him a good manager and let him just continue to dominate. And Chris Drummond and both Matthew Underwood agreed with me. Matthew, no, I didn't get to catch that match yet. It's been a busy couple of days here at the Cow Fortress here in the Inland Empire. I've been very, very busy, but I will check that out. But I haven't seen it yet. Matthew Underwood says, I'm surprised that Melina hasn't moved over to AEW as Rosa's. Yeah, I mean, I think the Rosa's manager, I think Melina, I think she might. There were rumors that she was going to be offered a WWE contract. I don't know if that ever came to fruition. We know that she did work the Royal Rumble, and that's really the last time I think I've seen her wrestle, period. I don't know if maybe she was injured, or maybe she just wants some time off, or maybe she's just done. I mean, she was technically retired before she came back to the NWA, or came to the NWA, so don't really know what her status is now. I do think there is room for talents like Melina, especially because she's done so much. She has so much knowledge. She has the ability to share that knowledge. So lots of positivity to think about Melina. Chris Drummond says, thoughts on Taya Valkyrie in the NWA? Well, my God, man, she was built for this. Remember, she was the ECCW Supergirls champion back when they were affiliated with the NWA in the 2010s. Before she joined the Paris Del Mar, she was the NWA in British Columbia, and I think Taya she's so damn good. I think it's a coup to have her in the NWA. I cannot believe that WWE couldn't make that work. I know that she's still working dates with Impact. I know she's still working dates with AAA. If that forbidden door or that pathway between the NWA and Impact is still open, like we see OGK, like we see hopefully continuing to see the Briscoes, then hell, I'm all for it, because I think, again, Taya Valkyrie is one of the premier women athletes in pro wrestling today. And I know that she did have a match with Camille at XPW's last show. And I know that Taya and Camille will both be a part of that next women's tournament to crown an XPW women's champion. I know Camille faces Deonna Purrazzo in the first round, so it'd be a major coup in her hat if she could beat Deonna Purrazzo and somehow get into another match again with Taya Valkyrie, but we'll have to wait and see. Fiona, my girl, what is up? How are you? Thank you for being here today. Thank you for checking it out. Sean Mega's in the house. What's up, Sean? How you doing? Bobby Bencito says, I'd like to see more of Rhett Titus in the NWA. You are not alone, Bobby. I think Rhett Titus is built for the NWA as well. He's another guy who I think while he was in Ring of Honor, he was a genuine product of Ring of Honor. And I think what he can bring to the table means a lot. And putting him in, he had that great match with Colby Corino. And before that, the great match with Austin Aries. He had that really good match with Darius Lockhart. I think I would love to see more of Rhett Titus in the NWA. See, Rick Del Santo is in the house. What's up, Rick? Bobby says Paola Blaze has been training with Jazz. That's great. That's a very good sign for Paola Blaze, and it means she's taking the business very seriously. Jazz is a phenomenal educator, a phenomenal wrestling trainer. She had a great career in her own right, and I'm not trying to diminish that in any way, but I've seen so many of her students go on to do bigger and better. So hopefully Paola Blaze could be one of those talents that make it to the next level. Remember, our good friend and former host, co-host of the Alliance Guys podcast, Kevin Frazier, your former World Junior Heavyweight Champion, was trained by Jazz and Rodney. So good for her. I hope it pays out for her. Sean Mega says, I still prefer Caprice as an announcer. Hell, I'll take him as an announcer too. Don't get me wrong. I just know he's got more gas in the tank. And if he wants to wrestle, then let the man wrestle. He certainly is qualified to do so. Bobby Batista says, I like Savannah Stone match against Johnny Robbie. I think you're talking about from the United Wrestling Network. I hadn't checked that one out yet, but I did see Johnny Robbie for the first time at the last set of those Irvine TV tapings, and she really impressed me against Milo Matters. Heap says he listened to an old Colt Cabana podcast that Caprice Coleman was on, and Coleman wrestled a ton of NWA Wildside and Anarchy. Yeah, I know it's wild to talk about this because the NWA today is so different than what it was, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But there were a lot of NWA territories in the mid-Atlantic area. So we're talking, Virginia, West Virginia, with Wildside and Anarchy in they're in Georgia, but not really close to Atlanta, more further inland than Atlanta, about half an hour away from Atlanta. And of course, the promotions in Florida and then Tennessee. And Caprice used to be all over those things. And he was wrestling for NWA Mid-Atlantic. He was wrestling for NWA Virginia, I think Virginia. And I know he had a lot of great matches. And he was working a lot with, I believe, I'm not going to get the name right. I'm going to skip on that. Just know that, yes, he was a very very, very talented wrestler. And I know that he is, he's getting older too. Maybe it would be good to have him be in the booth from time to time. Or hell, let's get wild, right? Let's put him and Tim Storm in the ring together as a tag team. There you go. Problem solved. It's all good. Let's see more of your comments. You guys are so much, it's picking me up today. I've had a rough day today, so seeing you guys in here, it's bringing joy to my cold, dead heart. Let's see. Willie Bone says, The Undertaker is Mean Mark Callis, who teamed up with Sid Vicious and were called the Skyscrapers in the NWA and WCW. Yes, you're correct. Absolutely. Tim says, NWA Gold, or he is NWA Gold, excuse me. Is it me, or is AAA now more relevant in the pro wrestling conversation than ever before? I think pre-COVID, they were getting there with what Lucha Underground had kind of set the foundation for in the United States. I know that the plan was never to keep going forward with Lucha Underground, but I think there was always a plan to have a bit of a AAA invasion into the United States. Now, in the past, AAA has had done events in Los Angeles. They have done events in Texas, I believe, like in the Houston market area, kind of where there's a higher Latino, Hispanic population. But I think the thing is, it's the company is to develop these stars and their willingness to work with promotions like AEW and promotions like Impact. Now, they were really ravaged by COVID, and things really were a lot harder down in Mexico when it was coming to performing live events. So like they literally were shut down for a while. So it was a blessing in disguise to have, Diana Purrazzo wearing the AAA Reyes de Reyes championship, or having Kenny Omega being the heavyweight division equivalent of the AAA title, or FTR holding the tag titles. Now, as the world is starting to come back to some sort of sense of normalcy, I would imagine that at some point they're going to want those titles back. That's why we have, Hijo de Vikingo, I think I said that right, who was the Crash Heavyweight Championship. He won that match to become the AAA champion when Kenny Omega was unable to defend the title. We have Taya Valkyrie, who has wrestled on and off for AAA for quite some time, go and win the championship from Deonna Purrazzo. I do think you'll see a lot more of AAA. And of course, like with this open pathway that they have between AEW, between Impact, and even NWA to a lesser extent. I mean, they still claim La Rebellion, and La Rebellion defended the tag titles in Houston as part of an AEW event, or excuse me, a AAA event. So yeah, I mean, with this pathway between these promotions, I'm not going to call it a forbidden door anymore, because if it's forbidden, why is everyone going through it? It's not forbidden. It's an open pathway, but you have to have the right clearance. You got to have that VIP pass. And with AAA, it seems like a lot of talent is available to go through. So more power to them. Bobby Petito wants more Brian Myers. Hey, we'll see what Brian Myers does when he's in the ring with Nick Aldis on these Power Trip tapings that will come out soon. I mean, if he's a bum, I don't even need to see him again. We're assuming that he already did the job for Nick Aldis, so maybe we don't need to see him. Or maybe he's part of this continuing growing Cardona family. Maybe Brian Myers might have some residual implications in this world title match. I mean, we don't know. I think if they announce it tonight, we didn't even talk about that yet, but they're supposed to announce tonight what the stipulation is for the pay-per-view. It's going to be a death match. That's what Matt Cardona wants. That's what he was getting ready to do with Game Changer Wrestling. Or is it a steel cage match? So none of the cronies can get involved. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Our pal Dave Scooby, who is a world-renowned traveler, he goes to wrestling shows all across these United States, says that Taya was at MLW on Friday wrestling Holly did for the women's featherweight title. Yeah, I mean, Taya is all over the place. And much like maybe the female version of Matt Cardona, I would say you're probably going to see Taya everywhere, because there's no need to just stay down for one contract. With all due respect to Taya Valkyrie, I don't think AEW is coming for her. I don't think they want her. And maybe they do. I could be totally wrong, but that's not a bad thing. If you're Taya Valkyrie and you could wrestle in the NWA, you could wrestle in XPW, you could wrestle for Impact, you could wrestle, like I said, in AAA, or maybe even the Crash, you have so many more options. If you're limited to just working AEW and Ring of Honor shows, then you're not going to be wrestling as much as you might like. And a lot of these talents, I'm not saying that they're old, but they're in their prime. And the last thing you want to be doing when you're in your prime is sitting in catering, waiting for that tap on the shoulder, say, hey, come out to the ring, we need you. At least that's how I feel anyways. Matthew Underwood says, how would you describe the production value of this season of tapings compared to season 1 and 2? The production, I feel, hasn't really changed that much in terms of quality. I mean, in terms of the way it looks the same to me. And they really captured what was in the first 2 seasons of Power. In terms of like continuity and storyline, I feel like things get mixed up, and that if they had a better taping schedule, or they had a better way of doing these things, rolling things out. Like 1 week we have Angelina Love debut on USA with no fanfare whatsoever, and then the next week she's on Power, and Velvet Sky is so excited to see her, and it's such a big deal, and she does a promo before a match. And I feel like little things like that, if just the little things were tweaked, it would be more meaningful, and it certainly wouldn't feel as stooged as sometimes it feels to me. Drummond says, Big Chris Dog. I'm not going to call you Chris Drummond. I'm going to call you Big Chris Dog. Big Chris says that Markova will be representing the NWA in AAA soon. Yeah, I saw that, and we were talking about that momentarily. And I feel like Markova is that she's just ready. You know, I don't know what she can do next in the NWA that's going to help her get ready to that next level. Natalia Markova has 6 wins in the NWA. And of course, 2 of those 6 wins come from DQ losses. She has 2 DQ victories over Mae Valentine, which I know is kind of inconsequential, but then a DQ victory over our women's world champion. And even though it was a disqualification, it still carries some weight. The only loss that she has that's straight up her loss is to KiLynn King. The other loss she has was as a part of a tag team with Misa Kate in a 4-way championship match, which she didn't take the fall. So she only really has 1 loss, and then she has 2 no decisions. So I really feel like Natalia Markova has really done as much as she can, unless they're willing to put the title on her. I think she's done everything she can do. Shawn Michaels says Baron is a big part of today's NWA. Yeah, I mean, he's still an agent too. I don't think a lot of people know that. He's the guy that brought AJ Styles to that next level. He got AJ to Impact, which got AJ to New Japan, which eventually got AJ to the WWE. And I don't know if he's still representing AJ Styles, but I know he does represent a lot of other talents in the world of professional wrestling. Plus, he was a producer for the show. I don't know if he still technically has that role. I mean, I guess we could all watch the credits tonight and find out. But yeah, and with good reason. I mean, the man is a wealth of wrestling knowledge when it comes to television. They've been doing it since the mid-'90s. With USWA, he was helping to produce that show. So good for him. Smoky Mountain, all that stuff with Jerry Jarrett back in the day. Music City Wrestling with Burt Prentice. And then, of course, Anarchy and Wildside are his babies. They came from his brain. So lots of respect and admiration for Bill Behrens. Bobby wants to see more of Kylie Rae in the NWA. I do too. Kylie Rae's great. She's a great talent. I think they have to be careful with her. As long as she's feeling good, she's an asset. What's up, Craig? What's going on, my friend? I hope you're doing well. Dave Scooby says, if the NWA can partner with some indie promotions and use their talent in tapings, maybe find some diamonds in the rough, plus local talent, they can draw in locals. Absolutely. This is a formula that has worked for so long for many pro wrestling groups. And the NWA, it wouldn't be breaking any new ground doing this. In fact, this would be smart business. Imagine if they created a circuit where they're doing shows in Florida with the Pope's charity wrestling promotion. The Love Alive charity, where they do these wrestling events. That last year, Pope worked with the NWA to do that event. It wasn't an NWA sanctioned show, but Trevor Murdoch did defend the world title on that show. Imagine if they did more like that. If they partnered with Wildcat and New Orleans, right? I don't think it's near Louisiana, but it's in New Orleans, where they were doing live events there, featuring, Hakari and, some of the talents that come out of Wildcat, and use that area. I mean, they could draw in a crowd from Houston as well, Houston, Texas. And then, of course, what they're doing with Tried and True Pro Wrestling, and now what they're doing with AJ Canzana's promotion. It just seems like these are smart business decisions. And it can draw in that local audience, and it can benefit everybody involved. And if you're doing more updated tapings, and we're doing tapings more regular, more often, the product is certainly going to benefit from it. The talent will benefit from being wrestling on a more consistent basis. It's just everyone wins. But it does take money to do that, so we'll see how that goes. Bobby says he'd like to see the NWA bring in more wrestlers from Mission Pro and former Ring of Honor wrestlers. I think they're there. I mean, I think you're going to start seeing more of that with Mission Pro. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that there's nothing stopping them. I know that Jazz helps train with Thunder Rosa, and a lot of the guys from Mission Pro are a part of those training sessions with Jazz. So I don't think they're, again, pathways, right? No forbidden door, but pathways. I don't think it's very hard for someone from Mission Pro to end up in the NWA. We've seen Matty Rinkowski and Genocide are two names that certainly ring a bell when it comes to Mission Pro talents appearing in the NWA. Shawn Michaels says, I'm in the minority by not liking Vikingo that much. Just cool moves, no substance. Yeah, look, I thought he was a lot of fun when I watched him live. When I saw him win the Crash title, he was in the ring with Willie Mack, Charlotte Flair's husband, whose name escapes me right now, and a couple other guys from AEW. Yeah, he's a flashy wrestler. I don't know him well enough to make that observation. But he obviously has a name that they felt that they could build around, and sometimes that's all you need. That sometimes it's more important than anything else, is just having that name. Tim from NWA Gold wants to remind you guys that we are 20 subscribers away from hitting that giveaway, that championship belt giveaway. You guys, it's not a joke. This title right here, this was from Tim. He sent it to me. He can send you a title too. Crazy Tim's Championship Blowhouse Warehouse. Blowhouse? Oh my God, that sounds bad. Matthew Underwood says, thoughts on Flair fighting Steamboat? Man, we're going to save that for Thursday because that's a conversation in and of itself. But Fiona says something I think a lot of us can relate to. It doesn't appeal, and I'm a huge Flair fan. It seems sad. Craig says AAA is seeming to work with other companies and engage talent more so than CMLL. As you know, CMLL has always had that bad rep, though, too. Bobby wants to see more of the Commonwealth connection. I agree. Dave Scooby says, hopefully he doesn't make a fool of himself in regards to Flair. I mean, look, let's be honest, right? So in Japan, both Terry Funk and Dory Funk Jr., who are much older than Flair is now, were still wrestling in Japan, even just 3 or 4 years ago, pre-COVID. So it's not completely unheard of, but it's treated much differently there. It's more like an exhibition, not like a real pro wrestling match. Hey, what's going to happen if Flair gets dropped on his back and has a cardiac arrest? We'll talk more about this on Thursday, but I don't love the idea. Yes. Idolo. My Spanish is not great. Andrade, sure. Let's get to the rest of the show before we run out of time here, because I do like to run down the show before it ends. I guess we did mostly cover it, though. I'm assuming this is the main event. We talked about it before. Mickie James, hardcore country. The legendary Mickie James. She's done pretty much all there is to do in the world of professional wrestling. And now she's at a point in time where she's helping to elevate some talents. Now, she did go over Kiera Hogan, but, I think Kiera Hogan benefited from working with Mickie James. And somebody like Natalia Markova, again, on this show, we say it week in and week out, steel sharpens steel. And Natalia Markova might be the most well-polished professional wrestler in the NWA at this moment. And like we said, she's going to be heading to AAA. She's going to be representing the NWA in AAA. But the fact of the matter is, I think she's getting to a point where she's not going to need the NWA much longer. And, could she become a full-time for AAA? Sam Adonis does it. We could certainly see that. But, again, steel sharpens steel. This show looks to be like a lot of fun tonight. NWA Power. Of course, you guys watch it live on Fight in literally just about 10 minutes. Or if you don't have the premium access, you can check it out on YouTube on Friday. Same time. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. These shows look good to me. For the most part, these shows have been looking a lot better as of late. I do still have my quims, my picks, nitpicks, and all that other stuff. But again, these shows for the most part are good. I've been enjoying this new direction that the NWA has been going. But there's still stuff like this Team War. Like they didn't even really announce any incentive for this match. And the last time they did this was at the pre-show before the pay-per-view. And the match, they really kind of just treated it like as a triple threat match. And there were no tags. There were, nothing changed. So I don't know exactly how this is going to continue to work out. Maybe they're still flushing it out. But, it's the hallmark of the end of the season, which means that we get Power Trip. And honestly, I'm pulling up my calendar right now. If we get 2 episodes of Power Trip on the 24th and the 31st, then that brings us still the pay-per-view would be June the 11th, which means there's still like at least another week of tapings, another week of show that they would have to provide before the pay-per-view, which is on the 11th. And then the 12th would be the second round of or first round of TV tapings for a show on the 14th. So the latest episodes of Power will be airing on the 14th of June, which means they still have a lot of holes to cover. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm hoping that they figure it out. My Ric Flair fell. Woo! But yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time to be a fan of the NWA. Bobby Petito says, I would like to see La Rosa Negra wrestle in the NWA. She's a former Bombshells champion when the Ring Warriors was associated with the NWA. So she kind of has a history working for the NWA already. She'd be great. Especially with the younger talent. She could be one of these, I don't want to call them a gatekeeper, but someone that could help bring the younger females along. Bobby Petito says he's also looking forward to watching Mickie James and Natalia Markova. And like I said, let me step back a little bit. I said she's the most polished wrestler in the NWA, and maybe that's going too far, but I just don't know what else there can be for Natalia Markova unless they're ready to put her into serious contention for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. For her to do the job to KiLynn King the way that they had her do that job, I kind of felt like that was a little disrespectful because Markova had been killing it so much, no pun intended, that when she faced KiLynn King and then lost, I don't know. Matthew Underwood said gatekeeper. Cody just had a midlife crisis. Yeah, I mean, gatekeeper might be the expression I was looking for. I just think when you have talents who, look, there's no doubt about it. I don't think La Rosa Negra would ever be a true contender for the Women's World Championship. And looking at this NWA roster as it currently stands, there's maybe two people on the roster who I think are legitimate talents who could be the next Women's World Champion. That doesn't mean there isn't a slew of great women on the roster. That doesn't mean that there aren't some women who are a little bit older but have a lot more experience that can be shared with some of the younger talents. Like imagine if you had somebody like Kenzie Page in a best of 7 with La Rosa Negra, or Kenzie Page wrestling. Who else can I think of? I mean, she has been working with Natalia Markova, and we, again, still sharp and still. Markova is a great talent, but notice how good Kenzie Page gets every time we see her. Bobby Petito says, I'd like to see Max the Impaler versus Genocide. Now, Genocide, again, I feel like she has potential to be that next Women's World Champion. And when you put them in the ring against Max the Impaler, I mean, that would be a wild match. It would be a lot of hardcore, like, power, I guess. But I really feel like, that you only do that match if you're getting ready to put the belt on Genocide, because she doesn't need to face a monster to just being, a regular wrestler. She's going to start taking down monsters. She needs to be a women's champion or building towards that. Matthew Underwood says the best of 7s are underutilized program. Some of my favorite matches have been those best of 7 series. And I saw that you mentioned Booker Benoit for the TV title, but man, I also think back to Rick Martel and, it might have been Booker T for the TV title. I think he was a part of that equation, I think. But it's 3:00, which means it's time to end this Dog and Pony show. I do appreciate you guys being here each and every week. And until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for checking out the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA POWERRR every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are the Alliance.